We've been on a pretty heavy grind for the past 10 months. I'll just round it up or round it down. It's around 10 months of trying to be more consistent, up skill, up quality, just up everything across the board. Because that's essentially what I need to do to get out of the zero death hole. And that's been the main goal since day one, honestly, but like we're 3.5 years into this and have not moved. And, you know, there's a couple reasons as to why I want to talk about. It was definitely the thinking of not being good enough, which is still the case. But I keep going into the mental space where, like, you know, if only I could get help. If only I could get help. If this person would have helped me, or if this person would have raid or shout out or something. Like, I keep going into that mindset. And you hear it in, you know, streaming advice videos all the time. Usually alongside networking. It's kind of parallel to those topics. And I think that's not a good space to be in. I think that's wrong. Well, I don't think it's wrong, but I don't think it's the right mindset to have, you know, trying to build a channel. It mostly is going to rely on you / myself, however you want to say that, because it's not a factor of getting lucky. It is a factor of getting lucky, but it's not as simple as getting lucky. You know, after doing this for so long, I've said getting lucky is essentially the easy part. I've had not many opportunities, but there's been a handful of raids big enough to where you think like, okay, like there's definitely enough people here. Time to get this show on the road. It's just had a 0 retention rate. I don't think anyone that ever was in a raid has come back. And this is going on like a year ago, 2 years. And you hear all the time, like, you need raids to grow your community. You need raids. And I think that's true. I think you do need... Well, you don't. But for raids to work, I think you need to get them consistently and, like, genuinely. I think the person who is raiding you needs to actually want to raid you and is more of a positive endorsement for you and your stuff. Which, it's very hard to do that when you know... Well, like, for me, I know the stuff is subpar. I know for a fact it's just not up to standards of what, you know, people are willing to put time and effort into. And I think a lot of people get, like, hung up on, you know, if only I can get a raid. If I can get a raid, man, I can start moving. That's not true. It is definitely more of a you can take a horse to water but can't make him drink situation. And it just depends, you know, on, you know, what people want. You could get a raid from someone and the audiences just do not mix. But for the most part, I would say it is a quality issue. Like, I don't even get them. We're in April. I got one during Final Fantasy, and I'm pretty sure it was just because of playing the same game. Man, I probably should have constructed this better. I feel like I'm mixing points up. But where am I trying to go with this? You know, hoping that someone else, you know, coming to your channel and dropping numbers is going to get your channel going is the wrong mindset. I think if you are thinking you need a raid or you need a shout out from like other creators, I think that's a trap. As I've mentioned, I've gotten big raids. I've gotten 500 people raids on multiple occasions last year and didn't move the channel at all. Didn't change anything because the content's not here. The quality's not here. The personality's not here. And it is a matter of, you know, of luck, but you have to have the skill when luck finally hits. And like that could be on Reddit or Twitter or wherever, but you need to be good enough. When something hits, you do need to have that quality of good enough. A raid out of pure generosity is probably not going to have any results. And thinking like something like that's going to fall out of the sky by chance, that's going to ruin your day. And I think people put a lot of emphasis on raids I think if you can get them consistently and from the same people, pretty much like you funnel into each other, I think like that's the way you would see change in raids. But like just hoping for the one, like I just need the one big one, it's not gonna work. Trust me, it's not gonna change your life. And it is not their fault. It's a your fault. And I guess that's maybe why when you see these like streamer advice videos, you know, they don't really go into the nitty gritty because it's not really a nice way of saying things. It doesn't sound good. But yeah, I've kind of given up on hoping for raids or trying to get them set up. Or even raiding into other creators, thinking like I will get a return on effort. And this is where sort of my like cynical side is gonna like start to kick in, because I think if you do a one-person raid, it's almost like a self-report that you're not good enough. So a lot of creators do shoutouts on raids, and like that's not gonna change anything. Like if you're one person raiding for a shoutout, I've not seen a single person follow, or at least stick with the channel. I think it's more of just a courtesy thing at the bare minimum. At the maximum, I think it's slightly manipulative. So I stay away from raids, and honestly, I will probably stay away from shoutouts, because I think, you know, they'll think like if I keep coming back, I'll get the shoutout. I'll get the shoutout. If I can just get the shoutout, you know, I can have a chance. So there's a really bad kind of negative mindset that raids and shoutouts can put on you. And I've definitely had it, and I still kind of have it. But I think you just have to work on yourself. Trying to up your quality of content is the real answer. And be able to climb and build something on your own without needing a raid is going to have more of a beneficial effect. Like, you got to be the pillar of your community. You can't have your community built on someone else's community. That's just not going to work. And that's kind of another trap. You could be overly engaged in other people's communities, thinking about networking or making relations, and at the end of the day, they don't really have any interest in, you know, engaging with you and your stuff. They'll say thanks, and that's about as much as you kind of deserve. And I don't think it's wrong to try and do that. I think, obviously, you know, you want to build relations. I think if you have the skills to put something good into other people's lives, you should try, but you shouldn't be like, this is the one thing I'm going to contribute to, and it's going to somehow come back to me. I think you can trick yourself into thinking like there's relations when there's really not. Or at least relations to the degree of, you know, we're friends now. And it's not a them thing. Again, I'm not trying to put any of this on them. You can definitely just trick yourself. And I think it is a sign of desperation. Like, you're so desperate to meet people and be in a community that you're willing to take any sign of positive interaction as something. And I don't think you're wrong to maybe pursue that a little bit, but I think at some point you're gonna get an interaction that kind of shows where things are at. Like, if people are on the climb and you have not moved, such as this channel, you're probably not someone they're gonna want to have stick around. Like, I definitely give off major leech energy. And definitely early on, I did want to engage with other creators, other new creators, people who are just starting. And, you know, because you hear about networking. Like I said, if you've got skills to put something good into other people's lives, well, you know, I don't think there's a problem with doing that. And I think it's pretty much unspoken that growing an online community for yourself it's kind of an unsaid rule that you're trying to grow a following online, make friends, and all that stuff. I think it's unspoken that that's a thing, and I don't think people are trying to be malicious with each other. I think sometimes it is, but for the most part, I think people are just trying to make genuine connections. And I think it's up to you as well to kind of notice when things are maybe not panning out. Like, okay, they're definitely signaling that this is not okay. They might not say it because, you know, people are going to be nice to you online. I don't think anyone's out to ruin people's days, but you kind of have to read between the lines in most cases. Whether you get ghosted or you don't get a response on like posts or your own stuff, you only really get engagement when you're interacting with other communities. I think that's kind of a tell of, hey, thanks for your time. There's really nothing more than that. And it could be a person, like just a person-to-person thing. You know, not everyone's gonna get along. So it might not even be a you thing or a them thing. It's just a person thing. And I've definitely not had a 100% positive track record. I've definitely vented my frustrations, and I'm still kind of venting them a little bit here, but I'm trying to be more constructive and conversational, because I think there's a lot of aspects that, you know, do not get talked about when pursuing VTubing and or content creation. I think there's a lot of, I see this, so I should be able to obtain this, but that's not always the case. I think you see a lot of it because, you know, that's, if you're in that, you're gonna see it all the time. What you don't see is, you know, the people struggling who are putting in the same time and effort into it and not really showing the same kind of returns. That's a weird way to say it, but hopefully the words make sense. But like just seeing it so much, you think it's easy, is all I'm trying to say. Like I should be able to get there eventually. I don't think anyone starts thinking like, okay, we're gonna pop off day one. Unless you're in a corporation. But as someone who's been going for, again, 3.5 years, you know, I've done the network with other small creators, try and build relations, try and collab, engage with one another, and seeing everyone else kind of grow into, honestly, I would say it varies from minor to major success. Pretty much everyone that I've ever spoken to or engaged with have grown at least in some way, whether it's just a couple or hundreds to thousands, and I've just kind of been stuck here, and it's not any of their faults for not keeping up relations. It's just, you know, I think everyone is playing the numbers game to some extent. I think, again, that's kind of an unspoken rule. You know, the show of disinterest is not a sign of bad character from them. It's just, you know, there's nothing here. And I really want to emphasize a raid or a shout out or a collab with, you know, someone big is not, it's not going to come back to you. At least in a one singular strike. It's not going to happen. Or singular moment, however you want to say that. Sorry if my wording's weird. Again, this is off the cuff. I'm just kind of rambling. But yeah, you can really fool yourself into thinking like, you know, getting engagements from other creators and other communities is having any kind of effect on you as a creator. I would say if you're posting your own stuff, if you're doing your own clips, if you're posting your own live notification, if you're doing your own events and you don't really get a response, I would say that's kind of the tell of you're not there yet. If you're saying to yourself, I'm doing my best and I'm getting nothing, then your best just isn't good enough. And that's again not a you thing, that's a world thing. The world has high standards, and you can see it. You can see the competition. I say competition, but like you can compare yourself to other creators. You know, you can see how they're editing their videos or making their clips, or how good their art is on Twitter or Instagram or wherever you're posting. You can see, and you really have to be at that level. And that's where I'm kind of getting the burnout from, because I am actively pursuing improvement. You know, so many people will say do it for fun. And I think doing it for fun is the right mindset. And obviously when you start, you're probably pretty excited. If you're just doing that as a hobby, you probably don't care. But if you're actively pursuing it as a career, as a creative, like I think starting with the intention of let's have fun, I think is fine. I think that's the core aspect of, you know, making entertainment is. But after so long, I think you start to realize like, oh, I can't have fun. Like I've put more emphasis on improvement over fun at this point, because I've had my fun and it didn't get me anywhere. Either I put too much fun in somewhere else in real life and didn't pursue something to an extent, before even content creation. If you focus too much on fun and never focus on improving, the people who already focused on improvement for months and years, they get to have fun now. You're not going to have fun until you've caught up to their struggle, which I think is it's not a double negative, but I think it's a sign that you can catch up. You know, if people are having fun, they might not be putting in the time of improving. So definitely, I think catching up is a possibility. I think it's not impossible, but I think having fun and improving at the same time, it's tough. I think you can learn to like learning, and this is in regards to whatever skill. In my case, it's art. I think if you can learn to like learning, that can definitely help. But right now, I'm like 10 months into the learn to like learning grab bag, and I'm burning out. So it's tough to stay positive. So learn to like learning. That's a big rule. If you're struggling, learn to like learning. You know, start noticing some problems in whatever you're doing, and just work on them. And every time you get a little bit closer to it being better, you know, that's its own reward. I know that sounds kind of weird and sappy, but it's true. I've felt it for a long time. Like, I've felt it for a long time. It's only this past maybe month or so where it's been kind of diminishing return. And I think I just need to find something else to work on. I think that's where I'm looking ahead in terms of skills and abilities. And then hopefully start seeing some results. To go back to the having fun, you still need to put in the same amount of time and effort, struggling to figure stuff out, getting good at whatever it is you want to make or put out, you know, as other people. Because you need to be able to do it consistently. Like, you can't hope for the one piece. Why'd I say it like that? You can't hope for just like a single piece to pop off and like that's it forever. Like, you just needed that one. You need to do it consistently. And I think there's some content that's easy to do that you can get consistency pretty regularly, and then there's parts where that's not going to be as easy or it takes longer. So it's tough. But I think you can find similar creators, engage where you are compared to them. And this is not compare yourself to others thing. This is what's the level that I have to get to kind of maybe start seeing some results. You can see who's kind of doing well and what their stuff is like, and I think you should shoot for that. But you should just compare yourself to your own stuff. You know, really look back, whether it's watching your VOD or, you know, looking at your old artwork or whatever, and just notice like, okay, I maybe wasn't talking so great in this one, or my audio's really inconsistent, and just try to fix the mistakes ever so slightly every time. And if you can reach out to people and have them watch or critique and have them notice things that maybe you aren't noticing, that's a huge help as well. I've definitely gotten feedback that I have not fully put into practice, only because it kind of correlates to other thing I'm trying to improve. But it kind of goes back to the art thing, where I don't think the art is good enough to attract people. So I'm focusing more on improving that. And then, you know, we can focus on upping the branding, improving the model. And it's tough, man. When you're being so self-critical, the mental takes a beating. And assumedly, you're still on your own. Not really being your own best friend and not having the support of your peers or anyone. I've been calling it the free fall. It's tough. It's tough, man. And you just gotta tough it out. I don't think there's a problem with reaching out to people, but make sure you're reaching out to the right people. And don't use Twitter as a journal. And I know you've probably seen it used that way by other people. Just don't. Just don't. But what are the points that I've made so far? Don't chance your own growth on raids and shoutouts. Compare yourself to the level that you see other people kind of succeeding at, but don't necessarily compare yourself to them. Compare yourself to where you should be shooting to go. But definitely compare yourself to yourself in terms of your own skill. Learn to like learning. Was there anything else? We're kind of going back a little bit, but it's not always about consistency. You'll hear consistency a lot. Be consistent in terms of streams and videos and uploads and all that, which is important, but you have to have the quality. You have to have quality first. So this probably isn't the most positive talk. are one that people want to hear, but I think for doing this so long, I think I do have at least, not expertise, but like the experience to talk about. You know, I've noticed the trends of what works and what doesn't, or who's doing well and who is struggling. Because the streamer advice videos, they make it sound so easy, and you see it all the time and you think it is easy. And there are definitely easy ways. I definitely think there's easy ways to get to where you want to go. I think it just depends on the kind of stuff you want to make, you know, how competitive it is, and just the audience for it. Yeah, it's not easy. You'll hear it's mostly luck, but I don't think it's luck. There's very few creators that are saying it's not luck, and I agree. It's definitely skill. And you just have to keep working on your skill. If you're struggling, that's the main goal. Just work on your skill. Just focus on improving. Don't focus on what other people are doing or how other people's channels are doing. You're only going to make yourself miserable. And I mean, you're going to make yourself miserable anyway, but if you focus on improving, at least being miserable is going to have some sort of positive in your life, i.e. you get better at something. Focus on yourself. If you know there are people out there who care and you need to reach out, I think that's fine. But don't go bugging random people. And I mean, I'm open to talk about this more. And this is going on YouTube. I don't know how much is going to get cut, because it's kind of just ramble. It's kind of ramble, but I need someone to maybe pick out my points and then maybe question them further for me to give a clear thought. And I'm not trying to burn any bridges either. I'm just kind of just talking about my experience with just trying to pursue this as a career. Anything that I've got or haven't got, or lack thereof, or whatever, is completely on me. I don't think you should be blaming anyone for your own faults or inability to succeed or lack of skill. But don't chance it. Like, that's the one thing I want to say. That's the main point of this, is don't hope for other people to come in and save you. You have to find it yourself, or earn it yourself.